From the dawn of time, the natural world has been a stage for the relentless struggle for survival. Amongst the animal kingdom, territory is paramount, a life-sustaining resource worth fighting for. Similarly, in the human realm, nations throughout history have sought to expand their dominion, driven by a complex interplay of ambition, security, and ideology. Today, we turn our attention to the People's Republic of China, a nation whose recent rise to prominence has been accompanied by a series of territorial disputes and military engagements that have sent ripples of unease across the globe. China's long and intricate history is interwoven with conflicts over land and sea, a testament to its enduring quest for territorial control. From the Himalayas to the South China Sea, the echoes of past battles resonate, reminding us of the enduring power of territorial ambition. Over the course of this series, we will embark on a journey through time, examining a series of pivotal military confrontations that have shaped China's relationship with its neighbors and revealed its unwavering determination to assert its territorial claims. These conflicts, etched in the annals of history, serve as stark reminders of the human cost of territorial disputes. From the frozen peaks of the Himalayas to the sun-drenched waters of the South China Sea, each confrontation carries its own unique story, a tale of clashing ambitions, political maneuvering, and the enduring human struggle for dominance. Through meticulous research and expert analysis, we aim to shed light on the motivations, strategies, and consequences of China's military actions, providing a nuanced understanding of its relentless pursuit of territorial expansion. High in the unforgiving terrain of the Himalayas, where towering peaks pierce the sky and icy winds howl through desolate valleys, a conflict erupted in 1962 that would forever alter the relationship between two Asian giants, China and India. The seeds of this confrontation were sown in the years following India's independence, as both nations sought to solidify their control over the remote and strategically vital border regions. The disputed Aksai Chin region, a desolate expanse of high-altitude desert claimed by both countries, became a focal point of tension. China's assertion of sovereignty over this region, coupled with its construction of a strategic road through Aksai Chin, ignited a diplomatic firestorm. As tensions escalated, both sides engaged in a series of border skirmishes, testing each other's resolve and pushing the region closer to the brink of war. On October 20, 1962, the simmering tensions erupted into a full-blown conflict. Chinese forces, well prepared and acclimated to the harsh mountain environment, launched a coordinated assault on Indian positions along the disputed border. The Indian army, caught off guard by the scale and intensity of the Chinese offensive, struggled to mount an effective defense. The conflict raged for a month, with both sides engaging in fierce battles across the treacherous Himalayan landscape. Despite valiant efforts by Indian soldiers, the Chinese advance proved unstoppable. The specter of the 1962 war continued to cast a long shadow over Sino-Indian relations, fueling mistrust and suspicion between the two nations. The Himalayan border remained a tinderbox, with both sides maintaining a heavy military presence and engaging in frequent patrols along the disputed line of actual control. In 1967, the simmering tensions erupted once again, this time at two high-altitude passes, Nathu La and Chola. The Nathu La incident, sparked by a dispute over the demarcation of the border, quickly escalated into a fierce firefight between Indian and Chinese troops. The Indian Army, having learned from the bitter lessons of 1962, was better prepared and equipped to counter the Chinese advance. The battle raged for several days, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Despite the intense fighting, Indian forces successfully repelled the Chinese assault, preventing them from gaining control of the strategically vital pass. Just a few weeks after the Nathu La clash, another confrontation erupted at the nearby Chola Pass. This time, the trigger was a Chinese attempt to construct a road through territory claimed by India. Indian troops, determined to prevent any further Chinese encroachment, moved swiftly to intercept the road-building party. The ensuing clash, though less intense than the battle at Nathu La, further underscored the fragility of the border and the deep-seated mistrust between the two nations. The ideological rift between the communist giants of China and the Soviet Union, initially a subtle crack in the facade of socialist solidarity, widened into a chasm in the late 1950s. This ideological divergence, fueled by differing interpretations of Marxist-Leninist doctrine and clashing national interests, had profound implications for the global balance of power. The Sino-Soviet split, as it came to be known, transformed the geopolitical landscape, creating new alliances and rivalries that reverberated across the globe. This ideological rivalry spilled over into the realm of geopolitics, as both nations jostled for influence in Asia and beyond. The shared border between China and the Soviet Union, stretching for thousands of miles across remote and often inhospitable terrain, became a focal point of tension. Disputes over the demarcation of the border, coupled with mutual suspicion and mistrust, created a volatile situation that threatened to erupt into open conflict. In 1969, this simmering tension boiled over into a series of armed clashes along the Ussuri River, marking a significant escalation in the Sino-Soviet rivalry. These clashes, though brief and localized, were highly symbolic, highlighting the deep mistrust and animosity that had come to define the relationship between the two communist powers. The Ussuri River skirmishes served as a stark reminder of the fragility of the communist bloc and the potential for conflict even among nations ostensibly united by ideology. The jungles and rice paddies of Vietnam became a crucible of Cold War tensions, as the United States, embroiled in a costly and controversial conflict, faced off against the communist forces of North Vietnam. China, ideologically aligned with North Vietnam and wary of American intentions in Southeast Asia, played a significant role in supporting the North Vietnamese war effort. While China's involvement in the Vietnam War was primarily indirect, its contribution to the North Vietnamese cause was substantial. China provided North Vietnam with a vast array of military equipment, including weapons, ammunition, and logistical support. This material assistance proved crucial in sustaining the North Vietnamese war effort and enabling them to resist the American onslaught. Beyond material aid, China also dispatched thousands of military advisors and engineers to North Vietnam, providing technical expertise and logistical support. These Chinese personnel played a vital role in bolstering North Vietnam's military capabilities, particularly in areas such as air defense and infrastructure development. China's involvement in the Vietnam War, though often overshadowed by the direct military engagement of the United States, was a significant factor in the conflict's trajectory. The echoes of the Vietnam War had barely faded when a new conflict erupted in Southeast Asia, this time pitting China against its former communist ally, Vietnam. The seeds of this conflict were sown in the aftermath of the Vietnam War, as tensions flared over a complex web of historical grievances, territorial disputes, and ideological differences. The catalyst for the Sino-Vietnamese War was Vietnam's invasion and occupation of Cambodia in late 1978, which ousted the Khmer Rouge regime, a brutal and genocidal government backed by China. China, viewing Vietnam's actions as a direct challenge to its regional influence, launched a punitive military expedition into Vietnam in February 1979. The ensuing conflict, though brief and geographically limited, was exceptionally bloody. Chinese forces, despite their numerical superiority, faced fierce resistance from the battle-hardened Vietnamese army. The war exacted a heavy toll on both sides, with tens of thousands of soldiers killed and wounded. The Sino-Vietnamese War, a tragic epilogue to the Vietnam War, underscored the enduring power of historical grievances and the fragility of alliances in the face of shifting geopolitical realities. The island of Taiwan, separated from mainland China by a narrow strait, has been a focal point of tension and conflict since the Chinese Civil War ended in 1949. The communist victory on the mainland led to the establishment of the People's Republic of China, while the defeated nationalist forces retreated to Taiwan, vowing to one day reclaim the mainland. This unresolved civil war, coupled with ideological differences and competing visions for China's future, has fueled a persistent state of tension across the Taiwan Strait. In 1958, this simmering tension erupted into the Second Taiwan Strait Crisis, a dangerous confrontation that brought the world to the brink of war. The crisis was sparked by a series of artillery exchanges between Chinese Communist forces and nationalist forces on the islands of Quemoy and Matsu, located just off the coast of mainland China. These islands, held by the nationalists, were viewed by China as a strategic threat and a symbol of continued nationalist defiance. China's bombardment of Quemoy and Matsu, coupled with its deployment of naval forces in the Taiwan Strait, signaled its determination to assert its claim over Taiwan and prevent any move towards Taiwanese independence. The United States, committed to defending Taiwan against communist aggression, responded by deploying naval and air forces to the region, raising the stakes of the confrontation and heightening the risk of a wider conflict. The South China Sea, a vast expanse of water teeming with marine life and rich in natural resources, has become a hotbed of territorial disputes in recent decades. China's expansive maritime claims in the South China Sea, encapsulated in its controversial 9-line map, have put it at odds with several Southeast Asian nations, including Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. These overlapping claims have fueled tensions and raised concerns about the potential for conflict in this strategically vital region. In 1974, one of these disputes flared into open conflict, as China and South Vietnam clashed over control of the Paracel Islands, a small group of islets located in the northwestern portion of the South China Sea. Both nations claimed sovereignty over the Paracels, citing historical usage and geographic proximity. This dispute, simmering for years, came to a head in January 1974, when South Vietnamese forces attempted to reinforce their garrison on one of the islands. China, determined to assert its control over the Paracels, responded swiftly and decisively. Chinese naval forces, supported by air power, engaged South Vietnamese vessels in a brief but fierce naval battle. The South Vietnamese, outgunned and outmaneuvered, were quickly defeated, and China seized control of the entire Paracel archipelago. The Battle of the Paracel Islands, a stark reminder of the potential for conflict in the South China Sea, marked a significant step in China's efforts to solidify its maritime claims and establish regional dominance. The Spratly Islands, another archipelago in the South China Sea, have been a focal point of territorial disputes for decades. Like the Paracel Islands, the Spratlys are claimed by several nations, including China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. The island's strategic location, combined with their potential for resource extraction, has made them a coveted prize in the South China Sea's complex geopolitical chessboard. In 1988, tensions in the Spratlys escalated into a deadly clash between China and Vietnam. The flashpoint for this confrontation was Johnson South Reef, a small reef claimed by both nations. Vietnam, seeking to bolster its presence in the Spratlys, dispatched naval vessels to Johnson South Reef, where they began constructing rudimentary structures. China, viewing Vietnam's actions as a direct challenge to its sovereignty, responded by sending its own naval forces to the area. On March 14, 1988, the two navies clashed near Johnson South Reef, resulting in a brief but bloody firefight. Vietnamese vessels, outnumbered and outgunned by the Chinese fleet, were sunk or forced to withdraw. The Johnson South Reef skirmish, though limited in scope, highlighted the volatile nature of the Spratly Islands dispute and the potential for escalation in the South China Sea. The Taiwan Strait, a perennial flashpoint in East Asia, once again became a theater of tension in 1995, as China conducted a series of provocative military exercises near Taiwan. These exercises, known as the Third Taiwan Strait Crisis, were a deliberate show of force intended to intimidate Taiwan and deter any move towards formal independence. The catalyst for this crisis was Taiwan's increasingly assertive pursuit of international recognition and its growing ties with the United States. China, viewing these developments as a direct challenge to its One China policy, sought to send a clear message that any attempt to permanently sever Taiwan from the mainland would be met with forceful opposition. China's military exercises, which included live-fire missile launches and amphibious assault drills, were designed to simulate an invasion of Taiwan and demonstrate its military capabilities. These exercises, conducted in close proximity to Taiwan's shores, sent shockwaves through the region and raised fears of a potential conflict. The Third Taiwan Strait Crisis, a stark reminder of the unresolved Taiwan issue, underscored the fragility of peace in the region and the enduring legacy of the Chinese Civil War. The Scarborough Shoal, a cluster of rocks and reefs located in the eastern portion of the South China Sea, has become another flashpoint in the region's complex web of maritime disputes. China's claim to the Scarborough Shoal, based on its expansive 9-line map, overlaps with the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, as defined by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This overlapping claim has led to a protracted standoff between the two nations, with both sides refusing to relinquish their claims. In 2012, tensions over the Scarborough Shoal escalated dramatically, as Chinese and Philippine vessels engaged in a tense standoff near the shoal. The standoff began when Philippine authorities attempted to arrest Chinese fishermen operating within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. China, viewing the Philippines' actions as an infringement on its sovereignty, dispatched a flotilla of government vessels to the area, preventing the Philippines from enforcing its maritime laws. The standoff, which lasted for several months, became a diplomatic crisis, with both sides accusing the other of violating international law and escalating tensions in the South China Sea. The Scarborough Shoal standoff, a microcosm of the broader maritime disputes in the region, highlighted the challenges of resolving overlapping claims and the potential for conflict in the absence of a negotiated settlement. As we conclude our exploration of China's military history, one thing remains abundantly clear: its territorial ambitions are far from satiated. The ongoing disputes in the South China Sea, the unresolved Taiwan issue, and the lingering tensions along the Himalayan border serve as stark reminders of the challenges that lie ahead. China's relentless pursuit of territorial expansion, Driven by a complex interplay of historical grievances, strategic considerations, and ideological imperatives, poses a significant challenge to regional stability and the international order. The world watches with bated breath as China continues to assert its claims, flexing its military muscle and employing a combination of diplomatic maneuvering and economic coercion to achieve its objectives. The international community faces a critical juncture, tasked with finding ways to manage these disputes peacefully and prevent them from escalating into open conflict. Diplomatic efforts, multilateral dialogue, and a firm commitment to upholding international law are essential to navigating this complex geopolitical landscape. The future of China's territorial ambitions remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the world cannot afford to ignore this issue. Staying informed about global geopolitical developments, understanding the historical context of these disputes, and engaging in constructive dialogue are crucial steps in fostering a more peaceful and stable world order.